Good morning. This morning we have Cory Klippsten. He's the CEO of swanbitcoin.com, and he's going to talk to us about fixing the money and fixing the world. So over to you, Cory.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations to all of you involved in putting this event on. And I'm thrilled to be a participant. And I did get my signals crossed with the organizers a bit and was expecting this to be a fireside chat with an interviewer. But nonetheless, this topic is so near and dear to my heart, and it's something that I talk about every single day and think about almost incessantly for the past nearly 5 years. So I suspect I should be able to go and fill the time. Absolutely no problem talking about why I and a lot of people around the world, I'd say hundreds of thousands toward maybe even tens of millions at this point, actually believe this is not hyperbole. This idea of fix the money, fix the world, and how important this can be. So I think I'd like to get into this by just talking a little bit about my own origin story in Bitcoin, especially since I'm speaking at a blockchain conference. I came into this space initially through crypto and blockchain, as well as lots of people have, who end up focusing more exclusively on Bitcoin after, say, a year or two or a month or two or something like that. It's a pretty common story. So I got drawn in after a long career working for big tech companies like Google and Microsoft, and working for banks like Morgan Stanley. And I worked at McKinsey and Company in management consulting, got a finance and international business degree from University of Chicago a long time ago. And for the last 9 years since leaving Google, I've actually been in startups. So I've been on the West Coast, based in Los Angeles, spending a lot of time in San Francisco, lots of trips to New York, a little bit of London, and just kind of working in the Silicon Valley ecosystem. I've been advising startups, investing as an angel, occasionally participating as an LP or even a GP in smaller seed funds, A funds. And basically that was bifurcated halfway through by Bitcoin smacking me upside the head with the price rise of the entire asset class, crypto, and also Bitcoin in 2017. A lot of you remember that being a raging bull run. It caught my attention in the spring, in probably May of 2017. I took a look at it. I started asking around. In my circles, because I was mostly in Silicon Valley circles, it was a lot of the ICO stuff, the token stuff, the future of decentralized finance type of stuff. We weren't calling it DeFi back then. And lucky enough, one crypto fund manager said, at least start with Bitcoin. And I read one book called Digital Gold by Nathaniel Popper from the New York Times. And that was a great book, good early history of Bitcoin, and did quite a good job of describing what was going on. But I continued to sort of follow the social signals in my network, which had me writing, 50 pages on a token fund that I wanted to start, and looking at all this, new listings on Binance and Bittrex and all these token things and decentralize the world and all this stuff. And it really wasn't until, I guess, over the winter of 2017, 2018, that I started to just go a lot deeper. And I think reading enough of these white papers and going a little bit deeper on some of the token stuff, and just understanding, that a lot of it was just outright kind of scammy, and a lot of it was, venture bets, I guess, at best. And the only thing that was doing exactly what it purported to do from day one was Bitcoin. And so that, for me, was kind of my origin story. I guess by about April of 2018, I decided to focus exclusively on Bitcoin and try to build things for the Bitcoin ecosystem. I started what became Swan about a year later, in summer of 2019. Swan is now one of the larger on-ramps in the United States. So essentially like a brokerage or an exchange selling Bitcoin. But we're also kind of becoming your trusted partner for anything related to Bitcoin, whether that's asset-backed loans or custody or, all kinds of different things. So we now serve people in over 100 countries. And, we've got a team of some of the top educators and podcasters and authors in the space. I think the way Hive.one ranks the Bitcoin community on Twitter, I think we have 15 of the top 100 sort of influential Bitcoiners work for Swan. So I mention that because that's who I learn from every day. That's who I talk to every day. that's kind of the philosophical underpinnings of how I think about Bitcoin, and what I think Bitcoin can do is heavily influenced by the people that I surround myself with and that I talk to on a daily basis. So circling back around to fix the money, fix the world. What does that really mean? What is money, right? That's the first question. You notice that in almost all of these Bitcoin books, the first chapter is about the history of money and what exactly money is. And so one way to think about this, and I'm going to go real basic here, and I find this actually to be very helpful, because some of this will be remedial for some people, but a lot of people won't have thought about it this way. So historically, we humans, we've been around for 100,000 years. We've basically had money for about 5,000 of it. We've had two forms of money that we've tried sort of over and over again. One is gold. Some people like to call that God's money, because it was just sort of endowed there for us in the earth. We've been using gold off and on to various degrees of success for the last 5,000 years. And then the other one is paper money, or fiat. And fiat means by decree, right? So this is government money. So you have gold, God's money, and then fiat, which is paper money, which is government money. And gold is really good at storing value across time, but really bad at transporting value across space. So it's there's very little of it. It's hard to mine more of it. So it does a pretty good job because it's scarce, and because it's recognizable, and because it's somewhat divisible, and you can assay it and verify that it's real. It does a good job of holding value across time. There's always the story of, you can go back 200 years or 500 years, and then to today, and an ounce of gold still buys a nice men's suit on Savile Row in the UK. So that's just an example of how it holds value over time. But it's very difficult to transport, and its physical nature makes it extremely easy to confiscate, to have somebody come and rob it from you, or to say, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and keep that in a government vault, and instead of letting you have that gold for yourself. So that's generally what's happened over time, is gold gets centralized, and you end up trading paper receipts for gold instead of the thing itself. So not good for medium of exchange and transporting value across space. Government money, fiat, which is mostly digital ones and zeros on computers at this point, but we sort of think of dollar bills or pound notes or something like that. Really terrible at transporting value across time. Even the dollar, the strongest currency, has lost 95% of its value over the last 100 years. We all hear the headlines of inflation every single day. It's running, I think, 7.9% in the US right now. So you're basically losing your money if you're holding dollars. And it is, however, very good at transporting money across space. So then you have Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, what's great about it is it's actually fantastic at transporting value across time. There's only 21 million Bitcoins. It obviously has grown exponentially in value since inception over the last, 13 years since inception, probably 11 years of price history. And, we expect that it will continue to grow in value as it takes more and more of the global store of value pie, right? And it's near instant and almost free to transport across space. Any amount of value, doesn't matter whether you're spending $10 or $1 billion. If you're sending that from, say, Los Angeles to Tokyo, it can, just cost a few pennies to a few dollars to be able to send that transaction. So it's just an incredible discovery or invention, depending on how you want to think about it. We have discovered electronic money for the first time as a species. And so coming back to fix the money, fix the world, when we think about organizing global society, 8 billion people, around an economic layer, a social layer of coordinating economic activity, we know that the price signal is the most important type of communication that there is for improving people's lives and for organizing economic activity, pulling people out of poverty. What you can do with fixing that base layer and improving the price signal and letting people coordinate is you unlock massive amounts of productivity. And so basically, when we say this, we expect things like less malinvestment, because people really care about the money. It's not inflating away. It's not burning a hole in their pocket, right? So we think that we'll see better investment decisions. You think we'll see people have lower time preference. You think of high time preferences, well, I want it right now, versus low time preferences, oh, I'm going to save for something better. Or, high time preferences like, let me just buy that disposable thing or that single serving thing, and that one-time use thing because I need it right now and I just got to have it. Or let me buy that sports car which depreciates. And instead looking for products, looking for services, looking for relationships that are going to last over a long period of time. And when you have money that doesn't burn a hole in your pocket, that you truly believe will hold value, what it does is it starts to get people thinking much more optimistically about the future, planning for the future more. And it gets pretty philosophical here, but you really see it. I think you're starting to see it in polls and survey data of people who consider themselves Bitcoiners. Certainly you see it anecdotally all over Bitcoin Twitter and the Bitcoin podcast circuit, but you see people sort of planning for their grandkids, saving like crazy. It's really getting back to kind of the way that humans have developed classically up until the sort of spendthrift last 75 years or so on a fiat standard. It's really kind of getting back to the way that humans used to view money. It was something that actually could be saved and should be saved, not something that you always had to put your money to work for you. So I find that to be really, really interesting, what this is kind of unlocking. So let me think about where else I want to take this, because that's kind of the general thesis. I guess there are some other areas that would probably be affected by Bitcoinization. And let me kind of lay out what kind of size or sort of amplitude of change that I think is coming here, just in case this hasn't been covered by any of the other speakers, or maybe somebody did earlier, but you missed it. I talked a little bit about the global store of value market. And so this is like all M1 money supply of the different currencies. So the yuan, the yen, the euro, the dollar, the pound, franc, et cetera. Then you've got stocks and bonds. You've got, you've got gold. You've got maybe the art market. And then you've got some percentage of the real estate market, probably, could be as low as 15%, could be as high as 50% of commercial and residential real estate that's actually store of value, not for productive use. So this is people, you see it a lot around here in Southern California with, let's say like the Strand in Manhattan Beach, about 90% of those houses on the beachfront there are empty because they're just people using them as piggy banks, right? So if you add all of that up, what you get is somewhere between $400 and $500 trillion globally that is store of value. Bitcoin is better at all of those things. It's a better tool for the job at being store of value than anything else that was just mentioned for holding that value over time. You're taking a lot more risk. You have a lower Sharpe ratio with any of those other assets as Bitcoin develops and matures. Bitcoin today is less than $1 trillion. So when we're thinking about the progression of Bitcoin and what I and a lot of other people expect to happen over the coming decades, is you have to make some sort of forecast for yourself. You have to think about, okay, what percentage of that store of value pie is Bitcoin, the best tool for the job, going to capture over what time frame? So today at say $40,000, sitting here in 2022, I personally, for my company's planning purposes and for my own family planning purposes, and just thinking about how much of my own portfolio to allocate to Bitcoin today, I have been very public about saying I think there's a 90% chance that Bitcoin hits $1 million per coin or sat cent parity before 2030. So something like a 25x between now and the end of this decade. Now, if you look at, sitting here at 40K and we were 4K a few years ago, it already did a 10x in a couple of years. I think that seems actually rather reasonable. And considering it's gone up 1,000,000% or something over the last decade, again, not out of the realm of possibility. And when you think of $1 million per coin, again, that's 21 trillion. And I've already told you that I think the market for which I think Bitcoin is the best tool for the job is 400 to 500 trillion. So you're only talking about something like 5 or 6% market capture to hit that $1 million per coin mark. Something else that's kind of interesting to think about, and this I think then comes again and ties back into Fix the Money, Fix the World, the progression that an asset follows to monetize. So the first stage, if you think about it, is store of value. the three uses of money are store of value, medium of exchange, unit of account. The reason that you don't see people clamoring in huge numbers for using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange is because it makes more sense to save the money that appreciates and spend the money that depreciates. So it makes sense for me to spend my dollars and save my Bitcoin. Only after someone has been in Bitcoin with conviction for something like 8 to 10 years, to the point where Bitcoin is like 95 to 90% of their net worth, 95 to 99%. At that point, that consumer then demands to be able to spend a lot more Bitcoin. And so that's what you see right now. So all these people that are actually enthusiastic about Lightning, that are using Lightning, they're either hobbyists, kind of like the homebrew computing club in the 70s, or they're that early cohort of Bitcoiners that had conviction 8 to 10 years ago, talking about, the 2012 to say, 2014 cohort, around that initial bull market run that peaked in December of 2013. So those people that bought a lot of Bitcoin in the single digits, double digits, triple digits, and now have ridden it all the way up, their net worth is pretty much Bitcoin denominated, and they're looking for ways to spend Bitcoin around the world, right? So that's that early cohort. Where I think Bitcoin starts to really take off as a medium of exchange is when that next cohort, the one I came in 2017, when that cohort has been in the game for 8 to 10 years. So basically people that came in 2015, 2016, some of those people have been in for 8 years by 2023, 2024. So the middle part of this decade, I think you'll see this new hamster that the Bitcoin snake swallowed start to get into medium of exchange stage, and some really interesting things start to take off there. And then finally is unit of account. And unit of account is when you actually price goods in Satoshis, right? Which is the smallest unit of Bitcoin, 100 million Satoshis per Bitcoin, 8 decimals. And I, again, have been public and have written about that. I actually expect we should all be able to buy most goods and services, most places around the world, denominated in Satoshis by the year 2035. So that's just another way to think about it. One of the good things about everyone being able to price goods in one currency, and this kind of corresponds to the late 1800s and La Belle Epoque, Victorian age, of being able to pay for anything gold denominated around the world. There was one sort of global measuring stick for all economic output. Getting back to that just decreases friction dramatically between people, between companies, between governments. And I think that really unlocks a ton of productivity when you have a clean price signal, especially one that is uncorrupted by government machinations, where we don't have to worry about what Jerome Powell might have to say in a Federal Open Market Committee meeting or something like that. So it should unlock an amazing amount of productivity as we move toward a single monetary standard, and that one global coordinating layer at the base of everything that we do as humans. So really looking forward to that, hoping I get to see it, hoping it happens in the next couple of decades when I'm still sort of active professionally and economically. So I get to actually be part of helping Bitcoin actually fix the money and fix the world. I'm not tracking the speech and seeing exactly how much time I have left. I think I've probably only got about 20 minutes. But I think I am going to cut off short there. If anyone wants to follow up with me, I'm pretty accessible, happy to talk to Australians or anybody else that's tuning in. We have a bunch of Aussies and Kiwis on the team, and a lot of Australian clients, and happy to help you on your Bitcoin journey. I'm Cory, C-O-R-Y, at swanbitcoin.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Cory Klippsten, and also just follow Swan Bitcoin on Twitter. I'm trying to think anything else to help you out with. Oh, my this is fun. My favorite book on Bitcoin is a book called Inventing Bitcoin that came out in 2019, and we actually give it away for free. So you can grab an ebook or an audio book and start ramping up there. It's swanbitcoin.com/free book, and you can just go ahead and grab that. And then finally, I put out a daily newsletter just featuring each day one of the best pieces of educational content from the entire history of Bitcoin. So one of the best podcasts episodes, one of the best YouTube videos, one of the best blog posts, one of the best book chapters, one of the best tweet storms. That's cory.substack.com, cory.substack.com. You can go ahead and subscribe there and get on the Bitcoin education train. But yeah, it's really been fun hanging out with you guys. Sorry I didn't get to have a conversation with someone that might have peppered me with more questions, done a bit of a Q&A. but this was my best attempt at an extemp version of Fix the Money, Fix the World. And thank you so much for having me.